Hi, this is Ryan Bush. In this video, I wanted to talk about something that feels to me like the most important thing that anyone could talk about, which is the attitude that so many people have these days that nothing matters. I really understand why people can feel this way because there are so many challenges and crises that we face in our modern world, whether we're talking about challenges at the level of our world, like global warming, or at the level of countries, like all the political conflict and strongmen and dictators around the world, and all the kinds of challenges we face at every level of our society, down to our local level, and even at the level of our individual families and our personal lives. So many people are facing such steep challenges that it's easy to feel like there's no reason for hope and that nothing matters fundamentally. For quite a long time, we've had to deal with an erosion of various institutions that have in the past helped to bind us all together, whether it's mutual trust in our fellow citizens of our countries, or religions, or trust in whatever institutions that have given us hope that fundamentally we're all in this together and we're doing our best to help deal with everything we're facing. And so it can be really easy for people to feel that we're just small individual little specks that can have such tiny influence on all these large challenges that are so much bigger than ourselves. So I wanted to just talk a little about how I respond when I hear someone feeling that way. Because, quite literally, that's the most important thing that it feels like we are faced with in our modern world. So when somebody feels that nothing matters, that they're all this tiny little individual speck, my response would be that fundamentally everything really, really, really does matter. And this isn't a matter of just blind belief or naive hope. It's something that we can all see for ourselves. For starters, we can look at how we feel when someone does even a very small gesture for us. Whether that's somebody smiling at us at the grocery store, or when we're pumping gas at the gas station, or if a friend or loved one gives us a small present, even if it's just a flower they picked. I still remember a year ago, a neighbor, a small young girl, stopped by while she was out for a walk with her parents, and she brought a dandelion that she had picked. Oh my God. Oh, I still tear up to this day. And I think of, for example, how my mother would want to give flowers to people, even like neighbors that she rarely interacted with, just to help brighten their days. And since she passed away last year, I know that she had felt herself that she was feeling alone and that she couldn't make that big of an impact in the world. But she herself forgot the impact that she was having on other people with even just the smallest gestures. So the first thing I would remind somebody of if they're feeling like nothing matters is reminding how we ourselves feel if somebody does a tiny gesture for us. If they're just checking in on us, asking how are you doing. The smallest gesture can mean a huge amount. Another thing I would say is that it's natural to feel like we're alone or this tiny little speck, but there are very significant reasons why so many people feel that we are far more interconnected than we usually think. Countless spiritual traditions talk about the interconnectedness of all things. And, scientists, for that matter, when we look at atoms or at the level of quantum physics, we know that things aren't just these solid, separate pieces of matter. Even the most solid things like a table or chair or our own body aren't solid objects. They're basically fields of energy, and we can feel the energy radiating out from ourselves if we just, we can put our hands on ourselves or next to a tree or anything, and we can feel the energy radiating outwards. We aren't as separate as we think. And, there are very real reasons why we can tell for ourselves, experience for ourselves this interconnectedness on a very real, tangible, personal basis. For example, in deep meditation or certain kinds of dreams or what are often called awakening experiences, there are times when our energy might shoot up from base of the spine to the crown of our heads, and then we're suddenly in the space of vast, incredibly beautiful oneness. And in that place, we know beyond the shadow of a doubt that we are fundamentally all connected. We're part of a oneness that is so vast and unshakably not just connected, but fundamentally one thing. Everything in the universe is one thing. Everything beyond the universe, whatever that is, whatever our belief system might be, everything is so unshakably one. Countless traditions have given different names to that. Some might call it God or Yahweh or Allah, or some might call it the Tao or the Tree of Life. Scientists might call it things like the holographic universe, or string theory would call it the bulk. There are countless names and countless traditions about this oneness that we're all a part of. The system of Reiki talks about the great bright light. Various New Age traditions might talk about the source. Whatever the highest, largest thing that we can conceive of is, whether it's just the physical universe, whatever that, the biggest oneness we can conceive of, we're fundamentally not just part of that. There are real reasons to believe each of us is everything. Jesus, for example, talked about how he and the Father are one. Many other traditions would say that each of us is everything. Hinduism, for example, has a phrase saying that the Atman, or the individual soul, is the Brahman, or this oneness, the everything. So there are very real reasons to know for ourselves at a deep experiential personal level that we aren't just separate individual specks, unrelated and disconnected from everything else. Even the smallest pebble, even the smallest atom, fundamentally is everything. So even if we feel like a tiny ant, not these incredibly beautiful human beings that we are, even the tiniest ant is everything. The tiniest pebble is everything. So I'm hoping that at some point we will start believing that we're not just these kind of hunks of flesh with some mind rattling around inside of ourselves. We can think of ourselves as taking our name seriously, of Homo sapiens. That means wise beings, wise people. It's time for us to recognize our wisdom already and experience that oneness. And when we get even the tiniest glimpse of that, then we don't feel disconnected and separate from everything else. But no matter what our belief system might be, no matter what we might have experienced for ourselves or what we might trust from things that other people say who we might have some trust in, there are important lessons we can draw from history that can give us profound hope for where we're going. I understand that a lot of people look at everything going on around us and think, oh, there's just so many crises and so much chaos. What hope can we possibly have? But there have been many times throughout history where incredible change has shot like lightning through our whole world and through major parts of civilization. For example, we can look at the 5th century BCE, when so many major world traditions were started, all within just the same century. We have the golden age of ancient Greece, where so many advances were made in philosophy and the arts and understanding the world. In India, Buddhism was founded. The religion of Jainism was founded. In China, Confucianism was founded, all within the same century. We can look at other times like the 12th century AD, when in Andalusian Spain, so many cultures joining together and mixing with each other, including Judaism, Islam, Christianity, produced this intense explosion of understanding about spirituality, from how all these people talking with each other, by joining our wisdom together, we're far more than our individual parts. So the image that I'm left with that gives me so much hope for the future and for the hope for anyone who feels disconnected is that where I sincerely hope we're going, and where I feel we are going, is that we can start to truly listen to ourselves and listen to each other, valuing the contributions that each and every single person can make, that each and every culture and philosophy and spiritual tradition and way of working with all parts of ourselves, when we really listen to each other and join our wisdom together, we can put together a far more complete map of who we are and why this all matters and what is truly possible. It's an incredibly beautiful vision of what's possible and how we can get there. Some traditions would call this integral spirituality, but whatever name we might give to this learning that we can have from each other, there's so much hope we can have about where we can go as people, as a world. And I see so many reasons for believing, not just through blind belief, but through deep lived personal experience, that we are far more than separate individual specks, disconnected and unrelated to anything else. No matter what we believe in, no matter what we've experienced for ourselves, there are so many reasons for hope and for believing that we are so deeply connected, and there's so much reason for not just hope, but real optimism and faith that we will get to so much more positive and beautiful of a place than many people can imagine. Coming back again to the central question of how we would respond when someone says they don't feel there's a point to anything, we really have to talk about what the meaning of life is. Of course, everyone has to decide for themselves what they believe the meaning of life is, and I'm not trying to tell anyone what to believe by any means. But for me personally, as well as for many other people, I really do believe we're here for a reason. We're here to learn and grow, to become more and more ourselves, to connect with the deepest parts of ourselves that some would call our soul or spirit, or the Buddha self, Christ consciousness, the transcendent self. radiant self. There are a lot of different names for this deepest part of ourselves. And it's not really a matter of just blind belief. It's something, as I've mentioned before, that we can connect through various processes like deep meditation, Reiki, countless other wisdom traditions from all over the world and throughout human history. There really are ways to connect with this deepest part of ourselves. And when we're connected with that, it seems clear to myself and many other people that life isn't meaningless, that no matter what kind of work or tasks we're involved with in life, whether it's taking care of our family or studying in school or doing some kind of job, or whatever way we're able to contribute, even if it's just smiling at someone in the grocery store or giving someone some flowers or posting a video on YouTube, whatever ways we're able to try to make the world a better place, that can give us immense amounts of meaning. And we never know who we can affect. You know, there's a traditional story from chaos theory, from a theory of physics, that says that a butterfly flapping its wings in China can affect the weather patterns on the other side of the earth. And we really never know what small things we do, what impact that can make years later, decades later, hundreds of years later. We never know. So it's ultimately just up to us to try and do the best we can. The other thing I feel needs to be said is that for anyone who is feeling like there is no purpose to life, we have to talk about the fact that some people feel that they don't want to be in this world anymore. And for anyone who is feeling that way, these questions are really essential to talk about. That personally, I believe, as do many other people, that it matters not only how we live our lives, but also how we leave this world. And again, everyone needs to decide for themselves what they believe, but I feel strongly, and I think there are strong reasons why we can believe this based on our own experiences and from learning from many other people's experience, that there are many different ways to leave this world when we pass away. And if we're heavily weighed down by things like fear, sadness, anger, jealousy, greed, and these other heavy contractive emotions, that has an impact on how we feel when we're leaving this world. Or on the other hand, if we're at peace, if we're feeling joy, happiness, contentment, love, compassion, if we're feeling those light, expansive emotions, then that has a much different impact. We can, for example, tell the difference between what kinds of experiences we have in meditation or in various kinds of research studies, like the ones reported in the book DMT, the spirit molecule, that when people in controlled lab experiments are given the synthetic version of DMT, this molecule that is believed to be released spontaneously by the pineal gland under certain conditions, like in near-death experiences, that if we're weighed down by heavy emotions, then we have scary, awful kinds of experiences. And if we are not weighed down in that way, then otherwise we'll tend to be lifted up and have really beautiful experiences. So, not trying to convince anyone what to think, but if anyone is feeling hopeless about the world, I just really want to encourage them to Try to learn more about why it matters how we leave this world. I have a ton more to say about the topic, and I'll try to post other videos about it. But there are very, very strong reasons, I believe, why we should take these things seriously. So there's a lot more to say about why it matters how we live, how we leave the world. But those are a few thoughts about it. So if anyone has any thoughts or questions, please let me know. Peace, love, and blessings.